and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and this is my October recap. As far as October goes, I feel like it may have been my most successful month this year in reading. Not necessarily in terms of having read amazing books, although I did read some really good books, but in terms of actually accomplishing my goals for the month, which I was afraid 2 weeks in that was not going to happen because I hadn't accomplished much by that point. But the last 2 weeks worked out really well for me. It helped that I was sick, and so I was at home in bed for a couple days, and I took off the evenings that week and just rested and relaxed a lot. So that helped. So, you know, if you can get sick once a month, that really helps with your reading life, apparently. Anyway, so I managed to get all of my goals accomplished in October, which was fantastic. So what were those goals and what did I do? Well, let's talk about that. So first of all, the most important thing for me in October was Victober, of course, which was Victorian literature. And I was actually able to accomplish my goals for every single one of the prompts. And I wasn't fully intending to or anticipating being able to fulfill all the prompts, but I actually did. So I was really happy about that. So first of all, I did the group read, which was The Doctor's Wife by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. And I kind of went back and forth as to whether or not I actually wanted to do that, because I really wanted to read Lady Audley's Secret first, which is by the same author and is on my 50 by 50 list. So I kind of was wanting to prioritize that. But at the same time, I really enjoy reading group reads and getting multiple perspectives from other people. And I figured I'll just go ahead and read this one. And if I enjoy it, then that will help me know, if I should read Lady Audley's Secret sooner rather than later. I'll be able to anticipate it more or less, after reading this. So I just decided not to worry about my 50 by 50 when it came to this and just read the group read together with everybody. And I'm really glad that I did, because it was fantastic to have all of the discussions, to be able to participate in and get the different perspectives and thoughts about the things that were happening in The Doctor's Wife and the story. And it made it really so much more enjoyable for me than I think it would have been otherwise. So I really enjoyed that. And that one also satisfied the prompt, which I believe was blatantly bookish prompt, that a book be serialized, because The Doctor's Wife was serialized when it was originally published. And that was actually evident in the reading of it. And it really came through. So that definitely satisfied that prompt. So the other prompt was to read a book with strong religious themes. And I read Sylvia's Lovers. And again, that was a group read that was organized by Miriam at Miriam Elizabeth Reads. And that was fantastic. I really enjoyed, again, the discussion with everybody, the multiple perspectives, our journey as we were going through the story and all of the emotions, because, Elizabeth Gaskell definitely knows how to pull on your heartstrings and draw all the emotion out of you. So it was fun to be on that journey with everyone in the group read, and I really enjoyed it. That was my final novel by Elizabeth Gaskell, and I was very happy to have read that in October. Katie's prompt was to read a book that plays with form. And Dracula is one that I have been wanting to read, honestly, since last year, because I read Mimi Matthews wrote John Eyre, which is kind of a mashup of Jane Eyre and Dracula. And it was interesting and well done. I took issues with the book. I ranted about it on my channel here last year, in case you want to catch that rant again. I didn't love that book. There are things about the book I didn't love, but I loved the atmospheric setting of it. And the parts that were based on Dracula were just really so intriguing to me that at that point, I put Dracula on my definite TBR, not like, someday I should read Dracula because it's a classic book and I should read it. But it became like, oh, I actually really want to read that one. So I was excited to read that one for this prompt this year, and I really enjoyed it. I think the epistolary format worked really well there. 95% of the time, there were some mistakes that I think Bram Stoker made in the epistolary format, but overall, I really enjoyed the epistolary format. I loved his writing style. I was really pulled into the story. It almost crossed the line for me in terms of like gore and the creepy aspect of it, but there was enough hope and redemption and light in it that it was still very enjoyable for me, and I loved the ending of it. So I really enjoyed my read of Dracula. It was probably my favorite book this month for sure. Definitely gave that one 5 stars. Typically when I give a book 5 stars, it's because there's like nothing that I would want to change in it, and it was like amazing and I loved it. There actually are some small technical things, some errors that I noticed, and some things that I would maybe have done differently, and some things were kind of like, okay. So I didn't love some things about it. But all of that was overbalanced by how much I really just enjoyed the story and where it went and the way it was told. So in the end, it was 5 star for me because of the sheer enjoyment that I had in reading it. And then the other prompt was what? Drama. And I read Lady Windermere's Fan by Oscar Wilde, and that was a fun read. It is not my favorite play by Oscar Wilde. I really enjoy The Importance of Being Earnest and An Ideal Husband more. Although it's been a while since I've read either of those, I have seen The Importance of Being Earnest performed live at least once, and I've seen the movie adaptations of both of those, so that may be why I enjoyed them more. And I've also read the written versions, but I don't know, Lady Windermere, although to be honest, it did kind of stick with me. The story kind of stuck with me. I think there's maybe a little more depth to it, to be honest, than there is in the other two that I have read. They're not that they don't have depth, but they're very sparkling and they're very witty, and he's obviously, you know, saying things through the play, but I feel like there's more depth of character, I guess, in Lady Windermere's Fan. But at the same time, the story wasn't my favorite in the way that it played out, and it was not as funny as the other two. It wasn't as like sparklingly charming and witty like the others were. But it was good. I enjoyed it. It was a fun read. And then there was a bonus prompt in memory of some booktubers who have passed on. And that was to read about something by Sherlock Holmes, or I think, or Wilkie Collins. So I read a short story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle about Sherlock Holmes, and so that satisfied that prompt. I was going to read A Study in Scarlet. That is one area where I didn't quite meet my goal. I thought I had a copy of A Study in Scarlet, but I did not. However, I did have a collection of Doyle's short stories about Sherlock Holmes, so I read the first short story in there, and that counted for that prompt. So that was my Victober, and so that was a big success for me. So there was another group read that was not necessarily connected to Victober, but it was by a Victorian author, so it worked nicely together with Victober, and it also qualified for the religious themes prompt, and that was Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon, which was organized by Tiffany and also Dia and Chrissy, and there were live discussions, which I missed most of them because there were too many birthdays happening in my life in October. Like, why is everybody born in October? I just don't even understand. And the funny thing is, honestly, in my family, October is not a big birthday month. Like, among my siblings, there were 11 of us, only one was born in October. But it's the children, my own included, and the in-laws that had birthdays. And then my son had literally 2 birthday parties in the same day in October that he went to. And the one I had to drive him I had to go 45 minutes away to pick him up from that birthday party. So and it was like right around the time of the live. So I missed most of them because of birthdays. So y'all people need to stop being bored, okay? Just stop. Anyways, I missed most of the live discussions, but what I heard I really enjoyed. I did manage to catch the full second one, and I replayed some of the others and really enjoyed the discussion and the thoughts, and I enjoyed the book itself. Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon. For the Tea and Ink Society Reading the Classics Challenge, which I participate in, it's a year-long challenge. For October, the prompt was to read a spooky classic, and so, of course, Dracula definitely counts for that. And then, for the Chantel's Read Your Shelf Challenge, my prompt for October, which was the Doyle side, was to read nonfiction, and so I read Dickensland, which is a nonfiction book by Jackson Lee about the literary tourism that built up around Charles Dickens in the years shortly following his death and then proceeding onward to this day, and what has happened to the various buildings and sites in London that are connected to Dickens in some way. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, but it was very interesting to read. So that was Victober and my challenges that I'm doing year-long. I should have led with this, but let's go through the books that I actually did read in October real quick and the ratings that I gave them. The Doctor's Wife, I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed the faintly ironic mocking tone that the author used in that book. It was really interesting. I mean, I didn't really love the story itself or the way it ended, but it was fun to read, and I definitely will enjoy reading more by the author. And then Sylvia's Lovers was a very slow moving. I gave it 5 stars in the end, but I will promise you 75% of the way through, I was thinking this is a 4-star read, which is funny because I love Elizabeth Gaskell, but she pulled through in the end and ended up being a solid 5 stars, and really loved the themes of sacrifice and forgiveness and overcoming bitterness. And then I read Charlotte Bronte's High Life in Verdopolis, which is helping me to read through all of the Brontes things, reading the Brontes to 0. I gave that 3 stars. And then I read Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon, gave that 4 stars. It was very good. It was a little bit, I wish it had been organized a little bit differently. He had it organized in like these little small segments, and once I caught the gist of what he was doing and how it was flowing, it was better. But initially, I was having a hard time understanding how the sections were connected to each other and following his train of thought. But it was still very good. And then Dracula, again, I already talked about that, 5 stars. I also read Just Don't Fall by Emma St. Clair, gave it 3.5 stars. It was a fun rom-com, enjoyed that. Lighthearted read. Dickensland, I ended up settling on 2.5 stars just because it really wasn't what it made it sound like it was going to be. It was something other than what it was. And while I found it interesting, it wasn't what I was looking for in the book. So I don't want that rating to deter anybody. It's still an interesting book, and it has a lot to say about literary tourism and the whole concept, particularly as it relates to Dickens and the role that Victorian culture played in the development of literary tourism. So it was interesting from that perspective. Lady Windermere's Fan, I settled on 3 stars for that. And The Thursday Murder Club, which I also read, I gave 3 stars for that one. I enjoyed the writing in that one, other than the fact that it was in first person. I didn't love that. But, I mean, not first person, present tense. I didn't love that it was in present tense. I didn't love the ending. And I also didn't love how he handled murder in the story. It just seemed to be treated very lightly. And so I was a little bit, I don't know. I didn't love the resolution in that book, but it was good, and I enjoyed it overall. So the other readathons I was participating in were Chantel's Cozy Cottage Readathon for October, and she had physical prompts and book prompts, and I managed with a little tweaking and massaging to fit all of the bookish prompts, but I did all but one of the physical prompts. I never did turn on my little fake fireplace downstairs and read downstairs, but I did everything else. Well, I will say, I didn't actually submit all of these, some of them because I didn't get to it. Like, I just was filling this out just now, and I didn't quite get to all of them and filling them out and entering them in her contest. But the physical ones, I didn't enter in very many of those because I wasn't sure if you were supposed to be like actually reading a book in those things. A lot of them I did, but not all of them. Like, I did go on a hike, actually went on 2 hikes, but I did not actually read a book on either one of them because I was with other people and I didn't want to be rude and just like turn on an audiobook and put in my headphones and ignore everybody else. And I did not read while baking, but I definitely did a lot of baking. And I didn't technically read under the trees either, but I definitely spent time under the trees in October. So I don't know about that, but anyways, that doesn't really matter. Talking about the books and how I fit them to the prompts. So for rainy day, I chose Dickensland because it's set in London and everybody knows that the primary weather in London is typically rainy, right? And then next to a fireplace, I put Sylvia's Lovers because in Sylvia's Lovers, there are multiple scenes where the characters are gathered around a fireplace. And one scene in particular, it is an old whaler and then a young whaler. And they're kind of trading whaling stories and talking about the whaling industry over by the fire. And it's such a cozy little scene. And it's such a prevalent scene or idea in the book that it went perfectly with next to a fireplace. And then Just Don't Fall, I put with a blanket because I read that on my sick day at home and I was definitely curled up in my blanket and all snuggled up and reading that very cozily. Under the trees, I put The Doctor's Wife because in The Doctor's Wife, there is a tree that she goes and sits under, and that the main character in the story, and someone meets her there regularly, and so they often meet under the tree, and that's a huge, huge, huge part of the plot. And so it's very significant, so that worked really well for Under the Trees. And then for fresh baking, I put Thursday Murder Club because there is a character, Joyce, who is always baking and trying new recipes and sharing her baked goods with the people around her. And then in the dark, I put Dracula, and I feel like that is self-explanatory. And then this one is not self-explanatory. I put Honest Faith for On a Hike because, stick with me, this is the one that is the most like stretch. But in the book, Charles Spurgeon takes you on a journey, like on a hike, if you will, on a journey from sheer skepticism about Christianity and faith and religion, etc., to belief, but also he tackles all of the doubts, the questions you might have as you journey through the Christian faith and come to the end of life and into eternity, all of the things that you might struggle with believing, and different things that you might not believe. Like you might not believe in God's mercy and his forgiveness as a believer when you sin, or you might struggle to believe that God created the world, for example, all that kind of stuff. He talks about all of those different things, doubts that you might encounter in your journey from skeptic to believer to eternity. So you take a little hike through faith with Charles Spurgeon there. And then finally, for drinking tea, Lady Windermere's Fan. There is definitely tea drinking. There's a scene near the beginning of the play where they are, where some guests are having tea with Lady Windermere, and the plot is being set up at that point. So those are the books and how they fit with the Cottage Readathon.
Hello, Editing Anne here with what may be possibly the worst video in the world. The camera on my laptop is apparently hideous. And also, I was not planning to be on camera today, so I look like a fright. But did you catch what I said there? The Cottage Readathon? And then I just kept talking like, that's what it's called. Did you catch that? Yeah. I did not catch it until I was editing. And then, yeah. As I'm sure you know, what I meant to say was the Cozy Cottage Readathon. Yeah, that one.
And then for Anne-tober, I also was able to fit each of these prompts with the books that I read. First of all, Call Me Anne with an E was an ebook, and I read Honest Faith as an ebook. Kindred Spirits, a book about a special friendship, and I put Dracula in there. There are multiple special friendships happening there. In particular, there are two ladies who are friends, Lucy and, Mina, that's her name. Lucy and Mina are really good friends at the beginning of the story. And then there are a psychologist and his mentor who have a good friendship. And then there are these three other guys who are all in love with, they're just three other guys. Two of them are in love they were in love with Lucy. And then there was another one who married Mina. Anyway, they all become good friends and they all join together in the pursuit of Dracula and develop a strong relationship. So I've been Dracula with that one. And then I suppose it was a romantic way to perish, and the prompt was romantic sensibilities. And so the doctor's wife perfectly fits that, because our main character in the doctor's wife, oh my goodness, she was exactly like an Anne of Green Gables character, and that her head was in the clouds. She romanticized everything, including like the Byronic type hero who was really not a good guy, but he's handsome and brooding, and so she kind of romanticized and idealized that kind of guy, similar to what Anne of Green Gables kind of romanticized and idealized certain things, especially the younger that she was. She definitely was romanticizing and idealizing all of these kinds of things, and the main character in The Doctor's Wife totally did that too. Then in the next row, some books are best left on the shelf. A book that's been on your TBR a long time, and I put The Thursday Murder Club. Now, long time is relevant. I think it's been on my actual shelf for less than a year probably, but I have put it on multiple TBRs intending to read it, and I haven't yet, and I keep intending to read it. I keep wanting to read it ever since I first heard about it, so that's why I put it there. And then I'm so glad we live in a world with Anne-tobers, and that is a free space, and I put Lady Windermere's Fan there. It is ever so much easier to be good if your clothes are fashionable. And I put Dickensland there, which has a really beautiful cover with like gold foil and everything on it. It's really lovely. And then No Mistakes, a book that takes place in a school. And I put Sylvia's Lovers on that one. That one is a bit of a stretch here. So in Sylvia's Lovers, one of the primary story points is that Sylvia is being pursued by two different guys. And one of the guys, Philip, he embarks on his relationship with her, trying to be her tutor, which does not work very well for him or for her. And it certainly does not create loving feelings at her heart for him. And it kind of frustrates him in the process because she's not a good student. So anyway, that's why I included that one in that prompt. Then When Your Imaginations Come True, a Dream Come True novel, and I put High Life in Verdopolis because High Life in Verdopolis is literally Charlotte Bronte's and her brother Bram Bronte's literally their imaginations that they wrote down on paper and preserved for posterity. And so I put that for that prompt. Life is worth living as long as there is a laugh in it. An author who makes you laugh. And I put Just Don't Fall by Emma St. Clair there because that definitely is a book that makes me laugh. So those are the challenges that I planned to do in October, and also I completed them. As for my other reading goals, it did knock off some things for me. So let's see. So I haven't colored it in yet, but for all the Brontes I want to read, I can check off Juvenilia because High Life in Verdopolis was for Juvenilia. So the only things left is I need to find Patrick Branwell's poetry, and I have almost finished the poems of Charlotte, Emily, and Anne. I did read some of them in October also, but I didn't finish the book that I have, so can't check that off quite yet. And then their dad wrote a book called Cottage Poems, which I want to read. So those, I just have some poetry left in that one, and their letters, which is not on here, but it also is what I want to read. I want to read their letters. Oh, and this is my tracker for the year. I have now passed my goal. My goal was 100 books, so now I'm having to add extra books, and they'll be interspersed in the shelves. The dark brown ones are the ones that I read in October. I was able to add actually 3 books to my nonfiction in 2024. I mean, in October. Honest Faith by Charles Spurgeon, Boyhood and Beyond, by the way, which is another book that I read in October that I forgot to put on my October month list because I didn't have a picture for it, but I need to do that. That was a devotional book I read with my kids. And Dickensland by Jackson Lee. So I read 3. So I am doing really well with nonfiction this year. Chantel's Read Your Shelf Challenge, doing well. The Tea and Ink Society, I have accomplished everyone in that one. I added Dracula and Sylvia's Lovers to my 5-star reads for October. And I was able to color in Sylvia's Lovers on all the Gaskell, which finishes all of my full-length novels by her. All I have left are novellas and short stories. I did not have any DNFs in October, so that was nice. I did not do any rereads, so I was not able to add to that list, which is unfortunate because that means I'm not going to get to all of my rereads that I wanted to get to this year, which is a bummer. But, you know, you can't do all the things all the time, right? Right? Okay. Anything else? Okay, so that completes my October recap. I had a great month of reading. I hope you also had a great month of reading. What was the favorite thing that you read in your own reading this past month? And also, how were you in accomplishing your goals? Were you able to finish everything that you were intending to read? Or did you fall behind? Or did you have a plan at all? Let me know, and I will see you next time. Bye.